Hi Debeshi, welcome to Writersmelon. Welcome to Author's Corner in Writersmelon. Lovely having you. So first of all, congratulations on your new release, The Roshogolla Murders. I will just read two lines from it. Poison Roshogollas, a killer on the house, and two unlikely detectives. Please tell us more about Roshogolla Murders. How did the idea came about? And how did you get this title, this unique title?
Okay, so first of all, hello and thank you for having me on your author's corner. Really happy to be uh, chatting with you. So Roshogolla Murders, which is my latest novel, a very strange, a funny story actually. So it's a comic crime paper set in Kolkata, which is where I'm from, and it didn't actually start out being a comic crime paper. I had planned to write a true crime novel because I'm a crime fiction junkie. So I read a lot of crime fiction. I mean, I've always read it. So I wanted to write a true crime novel and a true crime based on a very shocking crime that had happened on the outskirts of Kolkata sometime in the late 80s, early 90s when I just finished high school and I joined college, and a young girl had, well, she kind of conspired with her tutor and killed her entire family. So she poisoned them with gulab jamun, which had mercury in them, I think, and then I think they electrocuted the. It was quite a ghastly crime, but it made headlines. I was very curious about why she had done it, so I thought I could write a true crime story based on that. But somehow the other, it just wasn't clicking. I started writing a couple of chapters, and it was really dark, and it just wasn't happening. And somewhere along the line, I thought I would turn it into a slightly lighter crime case.
Humorous.
Yeah, humorous, and the pandemic had happened, and there's a lot of gloom and doom all around. So I kind of changed the track and made it a funny novel, and it things just started flowing after that, and it all fell into place. So that's the story of my
So,
latest novel.
Roshogolla Murders is basically a humorous thriller with some very interesting detectives, people who are unusual choice, the characters who are unusual choice for being a detective. And obviously, you have kind of made my favorite sweet into a very mysterious thing in your book. So let's talk about more of your books. I mean, this is your latest one, but you have written many, I think, couple of more novels and a whole bunch of short stories. So tell us about your other books, Debeshi.
Okay, so a little bit before I go on to my other stories, it is a comic crime paper, and it does focus on the Roshogolla. But if you do read it, you will find that in the vein of humor, there are a lot of there are a lot of home truths that are kind of veiled in humor, which are things to do with prejudices that are we have these inherent biases in our hardwired into us. Uh, uh, little slight things about the city of Kolkata, which is when I go home, I find that I can't come to terms with how Kolkata has changed and the new Kolkata. So a little bit of that I woven into the book. So there are a lot of
Yeah,
things which when you read the book, you'll find yes, it's funny, but there are a lot of other things I wanted to draw attention.
absolutely. So what is a book if it doesn't make its reader think or introspect, right?
I
Great.
do it with humorous books, so most of my stuff has been in the humorous vein, where I also try to get people to think about some not so funny topics.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is my fifth novel, so I've written four other novels. One is my first novel, which was written for Juggernaut, which is Dragon Aunty Returns. This is actually a sequel to Dragon Aunty because Dragon Aunty was a very
Dragon
popular.
Aunty Returns. Okay.
It's an e-book. It's on the Juggernaut app. And Roshogolla is actually a sequel of Dragon Aunty Return, which is about these two women. One is a very feisty Punjabi firebrand, completely over the top lady called Dolly Lisa, and a very unlikely friend, a very straight-laced Bengali, slightly prudish woman called Mrinalini. So these two become friends in Gurgaon, and this is their first adventure outside of Gurgaon. So it's a sequel. That is
Okay.
my novel. The second one is actually so I write a blog called Gurgaon Diaries, which was published as a book by Rupa. That's my second novel. The third one and the fourth one are both on Juggernaut. Third one is a retelling of Jane Austen's classic, Persuasion.
Okay.
Again, it's a funny, it's called Ghost of Gurugram. It's well, I wouldn't exactly call it horror, but it's again a slightly spooky story which talks about some of the, existing, uh, bad malpractices in our society, like bowel deaths and, talks a lot about mental health. So, yeah, so, and this is the fifth one.
Great, great. Love the way you have like written, continued writing since, I don't know, you have been writing forever, but like you have been getting published since last 5, 6 years, I believe. But love the
Yeah.
way you have continued with it. And tell us about this huge body of short stories that you have. If I like scroll down, it takes me like 2, 3 scrolls to go through all the covers. So tell us your experience in writing short stories and how did it whole come about with Juggernaut?
So I've always loved reading short stories, but I have Juggernaut to thank for my foray into writing short stories because all of these short stories have been commissioned by Juggernaut. So they didn't really, I mean, yeah, I wrote them and the ideas popped out of my head, but they were the ones who came to me and said that, after Juggernaut was published, it did so well on the app, they wanted me to write a collection of short stories, 20 short stories, which were written in 2018. So they've given me a
Okay.
deadline of 2 months, and I wrote 20 short stories then. And then about a year or so later, they asked me to write another 10. So I think I have 29. The last one hasn't come out yet. So 29 short stories on the app. And all thanks to them, these have all been commissioned by Juggernaut. And
Okay,
most,
please explain our readers the difference between commissioning and submission. So, if I could just say a word, so commissioning is basically an editor comes up with a whole idea and a concept, and he or she, the editor, actually decides which author could do justice to her idea, and basically commissions with some advance and some basic contract that you will write these many stories exclusively for this so and so publisher. So I think it is not a very common thing to happen because a lot of people are writing and finding just the right platform to get published. But I just want to tell people that if you are at it, if you are good at it, and maybe after some of your good work, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Basically, is what I'm trying to tell to the aspiring authors. Yes, please go ahead, Debeshi. Tell
yeah,
us your experience about this.
absolutely right, the way you described it. So, if you've been writing for a particular publisher and they're comfortable with your style and your stories do well, as is what happened with me on Juggernaut, the novel that I wrote did really well. So they thought they would experiment with short stories. Again, those did so well. They asked me to write a novel. So other than Dragon Aunty Returns, all of the stuff that I have on Juggernaut has been commissioned by them. It's Victor's Daughter, which is a novel based, it's a retelling of Jane Austen's creation. Again, it's something that my editor commissioned me to write. She wanted to, I think initially she wanted me to write a fictional adaptation of Mughal Azam. So she said, why don't you submit a pitch? So I wrote a pitch thinking about what it would read like. But that didn't work out, so we decided on Jane Austen because we felt it would uh, be a good adaptation in the Indian context. Because a lot of things
Absolutely.
Jane Austen talk about, things like getting married and, the importance of having money, a very common themes in it. If you look at, running here as well. So we felt it would do well. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And
So that's
often I
how,
feel there is like so much treasure out there in all the classic work that has been done and probably forgotten. But
yeah.
the way of retelling is basically a way to again bring it back, refresh it, rehash it, and put it together in the current day's style and something that is relatable in the current context, so to speak. Because Jane Austen is like, I think 19th century, early 19th century
I mean,
author.
it was wonderful because she is also one of my favorite authors. So it's kind of a dream come true. But yes, I think that's a very good way to look at it. So, anybody who is planning to write and is working with one publishing house can definitely look at that option. I think it also works for non-fiction. If you have a non-fiction idea, you don't actually have to write the 3 chapters and submit it. You can give a broad outline, and then if the publisher likes the idea, they commission you to write the book. So it works very well in the non-fiction space as well. Not so much in fiction. I guess I was lucky
Hmm.
with that I got.
True. So, give some advice to a new writer who is looking for submissions or who's looking to get published. And how should one approach this whole pitch thing? How should and what should be a pitch and what should a pitch look like? How should we approach a publisher basically? And is it true that they read all the mails, or how does it happen
I
these
think,
days?
nowadays, thanks to the pandemic, I think things have shifted a little bit. So I do find a lot of these big publishers, asking for submissions. I think they do read all the pitches. Of course, you have to write a pitch that will stand out. So that is a
Hmm.
little tricky, but it's not something that is impossible. So you need to do a lot of research, think very hard about what your book is going to be and what is the unique thing that sets your book apart from the rest. So you have to spend a bit of time writing the hook, writing the letter. Again, I believe everything should be read and reread and written cleanly, no mistakes.
True.
It's like you look at it as you would writing an examination because ultimately you're putting your best foot forward and you need to. There's a lot of advice on the internet, so anybody who's curious,
Yes, yes.
look it up
And
and
how much weightage do you think an editor gives to the idea itself and to the writing style, or how good the writing is? What is more important according to you? Because I think a bad writing can be edited, can be rewritten, edited, and so on and so forth. But a good idea is very important. So how do you see this? How do you see this thing, like an idea versus the style and the actual craft of writing?
I
When
also believe that it is the idea, but it's also how you express yourself. So I don't believe that if it's a very good idea but you've written rubbish, somebody is going to accept it because ultimately you have to hook them in with the way you express that idea also. Like a lot of times
yes,
you find, I mean, I myself have gotten duped into people who write really well, but ultimately you find the book is somewhat like a damp squib, but he or she has written it so well that it's engrossing. So yes, idea for sure,
absolutely.
but the language and the craft matters a lot. And if you're planning to hook an editor or a publisher, you have to be able to, express that idea really well so that they just look at it and they're wowed.
And your
So,
advice to the writers, to the aspiring writers, what would be
you know,
your
my
key
advice would be
takeaways?
you need to, number one thing is you need to keep reading because the more you read, your language also improves. So I find a lot of people who do come to me saying, they haven't read at all or they haven't ever written but they want to be a writer. So, these things, you have to work hard at it. So you keep reading and writing. Maybe don't write a book, but start small. Maybe write a blog, write a diary, write a journal. There are various ways. And so many people ask for submissions, articles, blogs, flat fiction, small little bits. So that, somebody who wants to write has to start with it, start writing, start small, and then, grow
Yeah.
from strength to strength. So maybe somebody who's never written before can't write a book in one shot because it takes a lot of discipline as well, more than anything else.
Yeah, tell us about the discipline.
you need to have you need to set aside a certain amount of time every day. It becomes more and more, it's become more and more difficult now because of the pandemic. Social media is a huge distraction, and it's
Distraction,
like,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
it's like a catch-22 situation for me at least. I needed to promote my work, but once I'm there, I'm either doom scrolling or going down a rabbit hole of some,
absolutely.
you you need to be able to balance everything and have a bit of time that you schedule, which is like your me time where you just write. Doesn't matter what you're writing, but get into the habit of writing little bit every day. Give yourself rewarding treats. Maybe just write 300 words, 500 words. So you need to set
Right.
a discipline if you have to, this is for anything. I mean, it's not just writing, right? I mean, for exercise, for
Let's
any
go.
kind of,
What you've written. Yeah,
so
absolutely. So, last few things from you, Devashi. Tell us what you're reading and give us your book recommendation. Tell us your favorite books that you have read last year.
okay, so I think I wrote a couple of blogs as well. Read a
Okay.
lot of books last year. Most of them are crime because I find that really nothing takes
Okay.
from things like a good murder mystery, which is what I
Okay.
wanted to do as well with my own. So I read a lot of books. Um, have to remember, but there was a Japanese Decagon House Murders that I read, which is basically inspired by Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. So, the same
Okay.
concept, a group of people travel to an island. It's like a closed, they call it the closed room mystery, where, there's a crime that takes place in a closed place and then nobody knows how the person did it and got out. So that was one which stood out.
Okay.
It's a very funny book I read last year called, uh, I'm just forgetting the name, but it was written by a Indonesian author, and it's about a girl who goes on a blind date set up by her mother and three aunties, and then the guy lands up dead, and how the aunties, along with her, try to hide the
Please put
body.
the name in your Twitter or somewhere. Please put the
Yes,
book name once you remember it. I would love to catch up on something humorous, definitely.
I just remember it. Dial A for Auntie by
Dial A for Auntie. Okay.
Jesse Suchanto.
Okay. Okay.
So it's definitely the book of the year. There's another really funny book I read called by Ellie Cosimano. Lindsay, I'll put the name up on my Twitter. That was again a very funny comic crime.
Okay.
So these two
Okay.
definitely, and I think Horowitz wrote a murder mystery called A Line to Kill. Anthony Horowitz.
Okay. Okay. And what about Indian authors? Do you read any of them? Do you like
I
reading?
read
Have
a
you
lot.
read recently?
Well, I'm just waiting. One of my favorite Indian authors is Ankush Chaitya. He writes murder, and I think he's
Okay.
working on. So he has this very popular Arjun Arora series. So Arjun Arora is
Okay.
a script, and he promised me that the next one is going to be out soon, and it has a bit about Calcutta as well. So
Okay. Okay.
I read Devashi's Bomb. I think
Mm-hmm.
for the dead. That's another book I've read a couple of months back. Very, very interesting. I've read
Okay.
Sonia Bhatkar's
Tanushripodar. Yeah. Okay.
Chattopadhyay has written, he has a series. Um uh, his detective is called something Mighty.
Okay. Okay.
Of Cold is the name of his book. So yeah, a lot of,
Okay.
I mean, I'm just
Okay.
a curious reader. So whatever I get my hands on, which is crime and murder and deep interesting, I
Amazing. So the your favorite book should have murder in it, should have crime in it, and if it also has Kolkata in it, that's like the deadly combination
that would
for
be
you as
nice.
a
Yeah,
reader.
I don't see too many books about Kolkata, so I decided to write my own. Ideally, there was a very good book called City of Death, written by Obit Bodua, who's also
Okay.
a detective based, a murder mystery based in Kolkata. That one again read it couple of years.
Okay.
but good book.
Thank you so much, Devashi, for this wealth of knowledge and this book recommendations. It's always great to have some book recommendations from the authors because you really want to always peek into the bookshelves of people who write well. So that's always has been my interest. So thank you so much for giving us time and wish you all the best with Roshogolla Murders and everything that is coming along your way. I love the work and I love the website that you have put up and everything that you have put together in the last few
Thank you
years.
so much.
Wish you all the best.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Bye bye. Have a nice day.